All right. So thanks for joining us for our April meeting. It looks like to kick things off, Robbie's got lots of stuff about the release.
Yes, so a couple things, just heads up, just a normal announcement. The 1.14 release candidate was cut yesterday, and the 1.14 final release is planned to be cut next Tuesday, unless someone brings up a release blocking issue. So if you have a chance to test release candidate, that would be awesome. I will also point out this is the first time I think anybody except for Mark has ever cut a release. So hopefully everything went well. As far as I can tell, everything works just fine. But yeah, we're working on expanding the pool of people that are able to cut releases so that it's not all on Mark's shoulders. So again, if you have a chance to test it out, let us know if anything doesn't work. Also in the same vein, Windows, excuse me, Windows game server support is marching along sort of slowly. We now have what we call sort of alpha support. What this means is that we are building multi-architecture containers for the SDK sidecar and also for the example game server, the simple example game server. And you can spin up a Windows node and launch a game server on a Windows node, either your own or this example server, and you'll get a sidecar that also works on Windows. So I think there are definitely some people who've sort of poked at issue number 54, which obviously based on all the numbers has been around for a really long time, and asked about Windows support, and it is now starting to come together. I will say that the testing for this has been pretty light so far. Like it's been through some sort of manual smoke tests. We don't have any CI set up for it yet, although that is something we plan to do in the future. And I think Windows support in Kubernetes is still a little bit in flux, and in particular on GKE is still in flux. And so expect some changes coming down the road, but it is definitely now in a state where if this is something you're interested in, you can sort of start testing it out and giving us feedback so we can improve it. So yeah, so that's really exciting. Feel free to go and give that a spin. If you try to do this on any older version of Agones before this release candidate, the game server can come up, but the sidecar will not come up. It'll just crash because there was no Windows version. So this is the first time where you can do it without a development build. So that's pretty exciting. Let's see. Okay, so next, I'd mentioned at the beginning about the 1.14 release that I cut this release, and we'd like to expand the pool of people, and I guess really by people I mean Googlers who can cut releases, because there are a couple of steps right now that still require internal Google access. And the person that we would like to cut the next release is not currently sort of a core contributor, maintainer, owner of Agones. And looking at the governance for the project, we only really have sort of two levels. We have like somebody who sends PRs, and we have somebody who is an owner and an approver, and that person has responsibilities and access to kind of go with them, where they're have to be approved by people in the community. They have they're responsible for merging PRs, et cetera. And I don't think that the person we would like to cut the next release is going to hit that bar before the next release comes out in 6 weeks. And so what I'd like to propose is we add a new role to the governance page, which is what I would call a releaser, which is basically somebody you still have to have write access to the repository. And so to do a release, but you don't have to be an owner of the repository to do a release. And I think having write access allows you to do things like merge PRs, but I think what we would do, barring any technical way to prevent people from doing that, is sort of by sort of social contract say that if you are a releaser and not an approver, thou shalt not merge PRs, or otherwise we can take away your privileges from being a releaser. And so I think this would be sort of a nice intermediate step where we don't have the bar quite as high, but still are able to train people up to be able to cut releases to share the load. So I'd like to propose that. I will send a PR, but I wanted to bring it up here first. And while I was doing that, I was thinking about maybe other people in the community have other roles that we think we should add that are kind of maybe some intermediate steps to kind of let people sort of more slowly walk up the ladder towards being an approver. So if you have any other thoughts on other ways we could expand the roles within the community, feel free to share those. Think about it. You don't have to come up with an answer in the next 10 seconds. But I think that would be great, because I think right now, if you look at the governance page, there's really like a huge jump between like somebody who's either doing drive-by PRs or people that are more consistently contributing, and then like you're an owner, right? And there's nothing in the middle. So Dom, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, sorry. I think that's a good idea, Rob. I think, had we discussed in the past SDK-based owners? So I think we had discussed that in the past, and that'd be a good way to start.
Yeah, I actually just added something to the bottom of the agenda, asking if we should add more people to owners files. So there's a difference between like in the governance doc that this is like an approver with like access to merge PRs and that sort of stuff, and then an owner of an SDK. Like Steve is listed right now in the owners file for Node.js, and that means that when a PR comes through that touches those directories, like Prow should be helping like steer that towards him, right? Or if somebody like myself sees that PR, like I can go look at that file and know that I should add him as a reviewer, right? And so I put a note that like, if you're willing, I'd love to stick you in a similar file under Unreal, because I tend to tag you on those PRs as it is anyway. And this would allow us to start building automation to do that, so that a person doesn't have to be in the way, and also to let other people in the community know that like you are somebody who's helping maintain that part of the code base.
I'm more than happy to be put on that list. I'm by no means an Unreal expert. What will basically happen is you'll tag me, I'll go to the guys in the Unreal team at NetSpeak and be like, is this okay?
Sure, but I guess there's a difference between being in an owner's file in the repo and having commit access, right? And so
should we document
over
this?
time, like I was gonna say, like, so this governance page, like it'd be great if we could update this with some more info, as long as people are all on the same page. But I think I'd like to move to a model also where we allow like Proud to do auto merges if people in owners files approve, right? So then you wouldn't actually have to get commit access to be able to approve a change to the SDK, right? So then we can have different levels of approvers also, where like you could be an owner of an SDK, you could approve an SDK change, it would go in without anybody else needing to touch it, right? So I think that's part of the goal of the owners files, is to be able to subdivide access without having sort of a single, you either have nothing or you have everything.
I feel like right now we're human being prowing it, right? Like we'll go to Dom and be like, hey, does this look good? And Dom's good. And then like someone who actually has approval will be like, all right, yeah, now I'll hit the actual button.
Exactly, right. So we can start to build some automation around that to take the people out of the loop. But we have to fill in the owners files, because otherwise it rolls up to owners at the top level, which is, not going to be super useful, right?
What was I going to say? Yeah, that sounds like we should document both then.
I also want to remove as much of the Google specific stuff as possible, because that doesn't scale. Take it from me.
True. There is a step right now that says post to Twitter, which is like right now, send Mark and April a note that says, please make a Twitter post.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like specifically the access to tools and things like that. Like we run into this in Knative, and I've been trying to actively, like, it doesn't make sense. So I will point to Prow as one of those obnoxious things that lives in at least for most of them, the config lives in a GCP repo that not everybody can access, and so that causes problems.
Interesting. The repo that I was setting up for
that. Sorry, go ahead.
It's in a repo under the Google org, but I don't know what the like access controls on that repo are.
Yeah, that's the problem. So, but we will fix that.
We can work on it. Cool.
I was gonna say all the glue and string that holds together like the CI sync stuff is all in a repo that only Googlers have access to right now, which is not ideal, but it's fine. It works.
Cool. I think that was my sort of chunk of things that stuck at the top of the agenda. So I'll pass the torch to Mark, who's got the next few.
Thanks, Robbie.
Sweet. I just wanted to give a couple of updates on some of the things I was working on. So the advanced filtering stuff, I'm working on that. My work process is very much like do a lot of the work and then rip it apart into smaller chunks and then push those smaller chunks up as separate PRs. It seems like it's going fine. Thank you, Dom, for giving me feedback. I had a comment at the bottom about whether to have a single feature flag or two feature flags. Dom seems 2 is fine. It'll come through as a PR at some point anyway, but thank you if you have a chance to look at that and you agree, that would be great. But just letting people know that work is going forward. Once I'm in a sort of happy spot where I think it's mostly working, I'll start pulling it apart and submitting PRs. The other one, actually, I'll throw this your way as well, Pune, because you know this stuff super well. Is the resource-based APIs for player tracking. I took an initial stab at that around rebuilding that. I haven't done the capacity stuff, but just the plain resource stuff to make sure I got that at least vaguely right so it matches stuff. So Pune, if you have a chance to look at that and just be like, yes, I'm on the right track, that would be awesome. That work actually doesn't block. Yeah, that work doesn't actually block any of the other player tracking stuff because none of the CRD stuff changes. But just want to make sure I'm on the right track. And then I'll go and do the capacity stuff and actually work out how to make that stuff actually work. Because that'll be fun and interesting. I'm actually genuinely curious whether we need to upgrade gRPC Gateway to make it work, but maybe we don't. I'm not sure.
Sorry, what was the specific part of gRPC Gateway you might need to update?
I'm wondering with the update to the resource-based APIs, whether it will just be fine because it's all include-based, or whether we need to upgrade the gRPC Gateway.
What version of gRPC Gateway are you on at the moment?
Probably an old one. It's still 1 point something.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I'd probably move us to 2. I think 2 came out a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
But I don't think it does break. I've been doing resource-based on 1 and then on 2 as well.
Yeah, it should be fine.
The only thing that doesn't work is field masks, but I don't think you will be using any of those at the minute.
Yeah, that should be fine. If push comes to shove, we could do an upgrade up to the latest 1 point something, see how that goes, and then do all the backward compatibility tests for 2. It looks like 2 has, what's the word, config settings to make sure it's backward compatible with 1. So
yeah, it's names of the JSON output change is what the annoying thing is.
Yeah, so. But anyway, I'm just still doing the design work, and we'll slowly keep puttering on that. I think those are my 2 things, just letting people know. Yep, that's me. And I pass the baton over to Stephen.
Hey, so yeah, I just had a general comment. I think it's a recommendation on the Agones docs to disable automatic node upgrades. And it's just something we're thinking about. We're trying to get games to more kind of run themselves in terms of maintenance. And I was just wondering, well, if it's even technically possible to enable automatic node upgrades and yet, not have the node being shut down while games are in play while they're allocated.
Does a node upgrade give you any way of basically saying, don't shut me down if stuff's running on here?
I know it will drain. So it'll drain pods off of nodes, and it will, I think, wait up to an hour for kubectl drain to finish, the equivalent of kubectl drain, and then I think it'll wait up to another hour for graceful termination. Maybe those numbers have changed since I last looked, but I know we put the I think it's a label or annotation on our pods so that they don't get removed during scale down. Like we prevent the autoscaler from reaping things even if they're in the ready state, right? Because those are your warm standby pods. I'm not sure if upgrades will respect things that are allocated, or if it will pick a node and say, I'm going to drain that node, even if something's still allocated, it's time to move forward and kill it and go on. So I think we haven't tested it, which is why the recommendation is to turn it off. So it'd be worth sort of testing and seeing if there's a way to make upgrades do the right thing.
And then the question is, what happens if you still can't shut down within that 1 hour?
Bye-bye game servers.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the limits are there to prevent like the upgrade process from being unable to make progress, right? So it says, we're going to wait a generous amount of time and then we'll kill stuff, right? So both in the draining and the graceful termination, like I said, I know it used to be an hour. It might be different now. But at some point there is a hard, like we give up waiting and it's time to kill stuff and replace the node.
Okay, yeah, we can have an investigation. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the docs. I'm trying to.
I guess what would be really nice is that if new nodes are spun up with the upgrade, and then the old node just naturally empties itself, like no new workloads are scheduled there.
Right. So that's what the draining cordon will do, the latter, that nothing new will be scheduled.
Yeah.
And
It's a cordon, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't remember if they've implemented surge upgrades. So the equivalent of like when you update, a deployment or something, and you can say max surge, so you add new capacity before deleting, right? So you never drop below like your threshold of like how many things you need to be serving actively at the same time. I know that was on the roadmap, but I don't know if it's been implemented. But that would basically do what you want in terms of adding new nodes and coordinating the old ones and then deleting them. But that after you cordon, like the time between that and the deleting needs to be long enough for your allocated game servers to sort of finish and exit cleanly. And so that might depend partly on your game. Like if you have really short game sessions where they're 5 minutes and you can make sure you give yourself that whole hour, then there's plenty of time. But if you have like a longer lived game session that runs for hours or even days, then no matter what we do in terms of coordinating, we're always going to kill that thing while it's still being used.
Yeah, there's nothing that's super clear in the docs, as far as I can tell in GKE at least, about what does drain mean and what does that actually do, and how to, if there's even a way to test that. Changing surge upgrades allows you to change the number of nodes upgrades at one time. Yeah. Probably we should talk to the GKE team about this.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure, I don't know how much there's on the doc. I'm pretty sure that Eric Toon and Messam gave a presentation at KubeCon a couple years ago about node upgrades. So again, like that's where I think a lot of my knowledge comes from, is sort of that time frame, and it may have changed since then. But I know that like the node upgrades were designed to try to not kill workloads. But again, they don't know anything about Agones game server states and allocated versus not allocated. So we work hard to make sure like that we inform the autoscaler not to kill things, even if they don't seem to be doing anything at the moment. But I don't know if there's a similar indication you can give to the node upgrader. So yeah, I agree with Mark. We should chat with the GKE team.
I'll make a note
and ask them.
It sounds like this is on the platform side. So it's outside of the Kubernetes kind of core.
Yes, yeah, because the way that node upgrades work is different for each provider. So like the autoscaler code is only looking at things inside of Kubernetes in terms of like the workloads, in terms of scaling up and down, right? Obviously, it interacts with the underlying platform in terms of creating virtual machines, but it gets all of its signals and queues from Kubernetes, right? And the node upgrade process can definitely vary from provider to provider. If it's done well, it will also inspect things about pods running on nodes and sort of try to do it safely. But there's no guarantee that that's the case. And also, even if it does that, it's not clear what signals we could give it to say like, hey, this one's really not ready yet. Please wait longer. Right?
Taking a look. Also, just to be clear as well, Stephen, I assume you're talking about like minor releases within a major release. You're not.
Yes, yeah. This is for those security. It's because really for us, it's because the control plane gets updated, and then the nodes have to stay close to that. Well, within so many versions.
And then I'm assuming right now you're just doing like node pool switch outs or something.
Yeah. So
it's a good question. I'm trying to see if I can find anything.
Cool. Something to look at. That's me.
I think that's all on the agenda. Do we have anything else folks want to talk about or cover? Mark is pondering.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
If not, there's always the fun. What are you playing right now?
Yeah, I'm skimming through recent issues and I don't see anything else there that looks exciting to talk about.
Do we? One other thought I had is, if it's worth the time, doing like a look at like some of the really old tickets to see if there's anything that should be closed. I added a label a while ago for we could. There's probably an agenda item for do we want to put in place some kind of bot that does like a 90-day or some kind of stale ticket closing?
And we talked about it last time.
Failing that, we could go and whatchamacallit, go back through and say like, okay, this is gonna get, should we close this? Or is there stuff that should get closed? Some of these are like legitimate still. I just don't know if we'll ever do them.
That's what you put the help wanted tag on.
Yeah.
April opened an issue in April of 2019, so 2 years ago now, that says we should add an about page that explains why we made Agones.
I think I
think that's one of those many things that like the homework we should do, and he's like, yeah, and then it never happens because
I think we have actually a pretty decent, like it doesn't have some, what page, where are we?
Listen, I realized it was 2 years ago, but there was a reason for it, okay?
I'm
I don't
sure.
remember what it was.
Yeah, I commented that we should do it before 1.0, so clearly that didn't happen.
I would say that page is probably pretty conducive for that. I just added.
No, there was like a reason. This was not enough, but it's fine. It's fine.
No, I think you said like we should write up like who founded it and stuff. So I think you were trying to get Mark to write something nice about himself and put it on the website. And I think.
Oh, and also, no, why would I ever want that?
Yeah.
But more of like the fact that it was done with Ubisoft and the people that have been the big contributors since then. Like I'm remembering there was a real reason for this, but I don't remember what it is anymore. Mark just likes to wait it out, and then eventually I give up asking him about doing things. So.
Yep. I'm just finding various tickets now. This one I think can be closed. I don't think we're going to do that. That's adding pod affinity, like removing pod affinity. I don't think we need to.
Why don't you share your screen while you're going through all of these issues instead of giving us a bunch of links?
I mean, I suppose. All right.
It's a friendly suggestion.
Okay, fine. Let me hold on. There we go.
Mark, if the time allows, can we discuss deprecating the meta patch and replacing it with metadata?
Oh yeah, we have time.
Yeah. So one of the concerns that I have, so that was proposed by you, and because it makes customers confused on why we use meta patch in one API and metadata in the other API. But deprecation and moving to a new field also kind of confusing for the purpose of naming. So there is an engineer working on this, but I was wondering if it's really worth the time to do this deprecation.
I've seen a few people run into it and get kind of confused. I mean, if the deprecation one still works, then people don't have to change it. So I think
but there is no metric we have that say that, okay, nobody's using this field anymore. Then we should either introduce a new version of the API in the future for removing that field, or like kind of send this survey to see if anybody's using that.
You mean like how do we eventually get rid of the deprecated thing? Is that sort of the question?
I think we should increase the version, right?
Yeah, honestly, I wasn't even thinking about when we would remove it. We could just leave it sit there for a long time.
Okay.
And worry about it later. I don't know.
And so this is basically the JSON naming of the game server allocation
and
server.
gRPC naming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So still for the resource base, the server extension API, it's still named as meta patch in the code. We just use a different JSON name.
Yeah, because I'm stupid and I wrote a silly thing. But yes.
So there's no confusion around that one. It's just not having.
Not an unreasonable question. I guess we could change the code. I mean, look, we have precedent before of changing the Go API as needed. So we could. I just figured there are more people using the CRD interface as an actual CRD, but that's sort of why I wrote in the ticket, like, I probably don't think we need to, but I can also see how it'd be confusing. So if people think strongly that we should do this too, maybe that's a separate issue or a ticket or that kind of stuff. I mean, we aren't breaking the CRD if we make the change in the Go code. We're just breaking the API service on the client, which is less of a concern. So, what do you think?
So I wanted to make sure that we're still not sure that we want to deprecate the meta patch, because after that came up, I wasn't sure whether we want to reconsider deprecating or not in the gRPC API. So it seems like that's still the case. The separate discussion is whether we want to do the CRD. Okay.
Yeah, the CRD is fine because it says metadata. But it's the Go code that I can see where that variable's a bit weirdly named, and I have no idea why I did that in the first place. But is a good question. Does that answer the question?
It does, yes. Thank you.
Okay, cool. I will go back. All right, what was I doing? I was going to present a window. I'm going through old issues. Multiple clusters scanning the globe. I was going to say, I think we can close this one. So we have multi-cluster allocation. Robbie's nodding heads. Should I just close it, or should I wait till anyone disagrees?
I think that was the initial intent of that. I think if you look at the top, what Yark put in there was really about allocation across clusters, right?
I say just close where needed because it can always be reopened.
Yeah, this is also about like cluster registry and that kind of stuff. And if we're completely honest, that's all GCGS stuff. So I think we can get rid of that. Did you just close that one, Robbie? Did I see you do that?
Which one?
Oh no, I saw you close something.
Yes, I did close one thing. I signed an issue to April about intake for security vulnerabilities and realized that I had recently done that, and so I linked it to the PR and closed.
Sweet. I marked this one as stale to see if anyone disagrees, but we're talking about maybe removing pod affinity from pods under pack scheduling. But since then, the Kubernetes scheduler has got a lot better about this stuff, so I don't think it's really a concern. So I think we can at least leave it on. So I've marked these as stale and see if anyone just like greatly disagrees. What's this about page shenanigans? Go on. What is this, April? We should have a page that explains who founded Agones, works on it, why we made it, etc.
That's the one I was mentioning earlier.
Oh, there we go. It would be nice to write this up before 1.0.
It was 2 years ago that the bug was filed.
There we go. Cool. I'm gonna mark you as stale. Do we still need to do this?
I'm gonna write it myself, and I'm gonna write it like, you know, some sort of RPG marketing text, just to make it interesting.
Makes sense to me. That was, oh no, that's that one. This one is, okay, going backwards in time. Guys operator, we might possibly do that at some point. Kind of fun seeing what's in the past. Java SDK, that would make sense. C++ needs unit tests. I think, do we have unit tests? I don't think we do. I think that's still legit. Nope, we don't. It's all a lie. All right. That's still legit.
1183 it's been open for quite a while, but comes up occasionally. That's about making the SDK host configurable in addition to the port.
Oh, yeah. That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
What's this one? Process for pushing container images. Continue with your create a more formal process for updating the container images for organized in projects, which there's in end-to-end testing and examples. Okay. That sounds legit. That seems This hasn't come up in a long time, so I'm going to mark it as stale. It's my issue. So this was an issue where I was like, maybe it'd be really nice to just grab the entire node address array from the node that the game server is on, rather than like do the intelligent, like, hey, is this one the public IP? Is this the DNS address, et cetera, et cetera. But it seems like people don't seem to care too much. We've had some adjustments to that algorithm about which ones we grab first, but people seem fine. So I think it's been open for 2 years. What was the one you were talking about? Oh, the host port one.
Yeah.
I thought I saw another one too. What's this one? What's that one Dom just sent? Missing SDK functionality. Oh, yes. Ooh, good point. That has,
yeah, there's a PR to finish off. Watch.
Sweet. Rust doesn't have reserve. I could write that.
Yeah, conformance tests will be hard with Unreal, I think. But I can have a look, see what the conformance tests currently do.
Yeah, we have the same issue with a lot of engines.
I think also I was thinking this list should be in the engine documentation somewhere, like the SDK documentation somewhere. For each SDK, we should have like a table of which things it supports, so it's very clear what it does in the documentation.
Ah, that's a good idea. That is a very good idea. Dom, that sounds like something you can do.
I love getting me some work.
Some metric stuff in here that's kind of fun. Build SH is missing in the directory for the SDK. Pune, you originally wrote this. Do you still feel strongly about it? Or has Pune dropped off? Oh no, there you are.
Okay, 2019. Let me dig into my archive. I don't know. I should look into that.
I think what this is that if you run a make command, it prints a big like warning that the file is missing. even though it's okay that it's missing. So I think what I was saying in my comment was we could put basically a file that is a no op there, because that would get rid of the warning that gets printed. Like if you run some of the different make commands, like a bunch of stuff spews by and it's hard to tell if that stuff is okay or not. And this stuff, when it prints out like error, can't find this file, you're like, oh no, like why is the file not there? Even though it's not there because there's no reason that it needs to be there, it still sort of prints an error out that we then swallow because it's okay and move along with the build process.
I think we should look whether this is still the truth. Robbie, did you look into the directives if we still don't have the build data such?
I can check quickly. I'm pretty sure they don't all have them.
I'm pretty sure they don't. They just miss the ones that they don't need. The other option, of course, is in, yeah, so it's not there. Oh no, wait, sorry, wrong spot. It's in build, build SDK images, go. Yeah, there's no build on SH.
So it seems like this is low priority, but somebody else may hit that.
All right, let's leave it open.
I mean, I think if we literally put a build.sh file that did nothing, it would solve this problem.
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
Like the build.sh file in the C++ directory, like does a CD and a make. But if you had one that like just said like echo like yay or something, like I mean like literally it could do nothing, and then the warning would go away. It would just execute a file that did nothing.
Just prints I'm useless.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is thumbs up on that and good first issue, help wanted.
Or we could probably just do it during the meeting.
Yeah.
Cool. Key object automation order plus. What is that? I wrote something. What is it? Since it's good breaking, we should have examples of automation disabled by default. I think we've done this, haven't we? We're literally just talking about it. Yep.
Yeah, we must have.
We must have done this. Just have a quick look at our documentation. I'm sure we do this in our deployment scripts. Creating a cluster. No, enable. Yeah, we've done this. This has been done. All right, we can close this one off. Close the comments. That's probably a good one to keep. Did this get solved? You know, I'm running on EKS.
I think for a while we were waiting for Agones 119, and then the last update was that they had backported support, so it may be solved now. Yeah, the last update is this is in a good issue state to close. Because we're no longer running 1.14.
Yeah. Cool.
We're running 1.18, so I think we're good here.
Yeah. Different abilities. We should actually probably have a process for going and checking out container security scanning stuff on the regular as well.
Yeah, every time I look at GCR, it like tries to tell me like, hey, we've scanned this stuff. And I think that's why I filed the issues, because like there was some warning that had popped up, and then like we should probably go look at all of them. But I also don't know if people outside of Google have access to that.
Probably not. What is this one? kubectl explain. I didn't even know that was a thing. Options, description of fields using.
Oh yeah, kubectl explain is really cool. I think we were waiting for a newer Kubernetes version.
Sweet.
And then since Alex was driving that, the ball kind of got dropped.
Such respective there's a schema, there's an object root. I wonder if this works now. We have schemas now. Actually, we have schemas now for everything.
So we should test that out.
You also add a help wanted. I think that's a good help wanted. Possibly good first issue. Yeah, why not? Document how to use informers and listers. That's legit. This has come up a few times. Whether we should split up the controller. Apparently, it's got lots of thumbs up.
Yeah, I think that would be a nice thing. It would also help for if you wanted to update the node pool the controller's running in. Like we talked about updating the node pool the game servers.
Oh, true.
But you should be able to update the node pool the controller's running in. And the way to do that would be if it's say size 1, you do a max surge of size 1, you create a new node, you add a new pod of this type, and then you can spin down the old one, and you have no downtime.
Yeah.
Really nice. Yeah, that would be a really nice one to do. I think we should leave that open and give it more thumbs up. I'm gonna go thumbs up later.
Fleet rolling update strategy is not working. I think we fixed this. What was this? We're taking into account. I think we fixed this because basically you have to do it. You have to do an edit rather than an apply, because apply will chuck it back to what its original scale version was. What was it? There was. Where was it? People remember the one I'm talking about. Actually, I can find it a different way. Where are we? Site. Back. Content docs. Is it guides? No, probably in getting started. Fleet autoscaler. No. Then I think it was in docs guides. Feel like there was no. Reference. Oh, we wrote some docs about how to edit fleets, and now I can't find it. That's gonna.
Do I remember we had a discussion previous meeting around pulling large containers? Did we ever? Was that here? I think that was here. Yeah, quick check of the notes.
that sounds like a thing. It sounds like a general Kubernetes problem as well. This is killing me. I swear there was like we wrote a whole guide about like how if you do an edit to a fleet, it has to like not have the fleet replica count in it. If you're doing updates, create strategy to more fleets, game server allocation across fleets. Yeah, that's got updated. And now I can't remember where that is. Oh, it's gonna ruin me. Okay, see the action shut down. Seeing the fleets going down, changing auto scaling parameters. All right, I'll have to look for it later. There. I swear we wrote docs for that. Do. That's a good one. Actually, let's keep this one because this is something I really want to write now, especially once the advanced stuff comes out. What I think I'd like to do long term is take this and write a whole section, which is like different like scenarios for allocation and like fleet scale up and down, and like have all kinds of different scenarios so that people can see different ways of doing things, like everything from like canary testing to like hey, I want to run a persistent world, how do I do that, with this thing, or like all kinds of different scenarios, and we can just flesh that out. So let's leave that open. That's a good one. Actually though, on this one saying best practices for game server allocation, Puna, you initially wrote that. One thing we do have now is on the allocator service, we have this section, game server allocation versus allocation service. Is that enough?
Mm-hmm.
Or I could just write something in the top in the ticket. We have. Is that enough for right now, or do you think we need?
Well, as you said, the earlier document you opened,
yeah,
you had a couple of like different, like game server self-allocation, the game server allocation, and I think that section you added also could be a good match for this page as well.
Yep.
To have the full picture.
Yeah.
But that section you added to the comparison between the game server allocation and the Agones allocator, I think that's also would address my comment.
Okay, we can leave it open. Kind of covers both. That seems reasonable. Sweet. Build.
But I really like your idea of having scenario-based approaches on allocation.
I think this can be closed because I think we've updated these since then. chuck that on stale. I think that one's fine.
I think that node. I think I resolved that node JIP issue.
Yeah, I'm fairly sure I've rebuilt at least some of those at some point. I'm not even sure what that is. Fleet rolling is an issue when we use up. All right, I'm not sure what that is. I will leave that alone. Ah, Pool Panda. I think we can close this now because I'm pretty sure this is done. Yeah. No, we're not getting Pool Panda requests anymore. We're
Oh, they made us upgrade, so we did.
requests anymore, and we just upgraded to the latest GitHub and Slack integration thingo. I'll chuck that in the milestone because that actually got done. Cool. Helm values. Do we have that as an option? All right, I'll leave that alone. Someone may still want to get back to that. Agones supporting namespaces by namespace level. You know, there's probably this keeps coming up where like people like every time we add a new development developer that we need to add a new namespace for that developer. We need to update it. I wonder if there's just a little third-party project that someone could write that just does this somehow. Like just adds, you know, anytime you add a new namespace, it automatically creates the RBAC rules, and you could just have it as a small, like it's just as a small little third-party project.
Yeah, I think that would be really good.
We're at time.
Well, if no one has anything else, we can call it. I know it's been super exciting watching Mark go through GitHub.
I'm great content.
Eh.
I have a PR for you, Mark. Sending it now.
Looks like you're making a new one, or
oh, you're putting that file
about
in?
the build that I fixed. No, putting the file in actually breaks the build. I've got a better way to fix it.
Oh, I see.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us, and well, God, I can't believe it's already end of April. So I guess we'll catch up with everyone next month.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
all.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.